This podcast is presented by the Prince George's County Memorial Library System.
Hi, I'm Darlene.
I'm Hawa.
And I'm Heather.
And this is our podcast, These Books Made Me. Today we're going to be talking about The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. Friendly warning as always, this podcast contains spoilers. If you don't yet know who is a secret ice skating superstar, proceed with caution. All right, so what did this book mean to you? Is this everyone's first time reading it? If not, how did this reread compare to your memories of reading it when you were younger?
So this was not my first time reading it, which is so exciting because I hardly ever get to say that. But honestly, my memories, it's been so long since I read it because I read it around the time it first came out. So like, I kind of remembered like some of the gist of it, but like I had forgotten a good amount of it. So it kind of felt like a fresh read. And honestly, this book is just as great as I thought it was when I read it like 7 years ago. So yeah, I'm really glad that I got to reread it. Elizabeth Acevedo has become one of my favorite authors. So I'm so excited that we're discussing this book.
Not my first time reading it. I read it when it first came out. I loved it then. I love it now. You know, reading it again, I'm just struck by how well she writes. It's really hard to write a novel in verse and have it read like a novel and not just like a set of poems, or for it to read like a novel and like it isn't poems at all. And she just threads the needle on that really precisely. Like it works as both. I love it. I was crying last night when I read it. This book really like hits hard for me. So yeah, still love it. Glad to reread it.
Yeah, this is my first time reading this book. I've read some of her other books. I know for sure I read With the Fire on High. Is that the title? And I can't remember the other one of hers that I've read.
Clap When You Land?
Clap When You Land, yes. And I really enjoyed those books. I think I just stopped short of reading The Poet X because I'm not a really big poetry person. There are certain books that I really like that utilize poetry, but it's not like in verse like this one is. So I think I just maybe assumed I wouldn't enjoy it as much as some of the other novels, but I was pleasantly surprised. I really liked this book. And just like Heather, I started crying. I actually finished it this morning. I ended up switching to audio and I listened to it as I was doing errands or as I was driving to get some errands done. And I was like crying in the car. And I was like, I hope no one thinks I'm just like my life is like not together right now or something. But yeah, I really like this book and I feel like there's so much to talk about. And so I'm really excited to get into our discussion.
Okay, I will dive into a plot summary real quick. Xiomara Bautista is a Dominican-American teenager growing up in Harlem. Xiomara lives with her brother, Xavier, who she calls Twin, and her parents. Xiomara and Twin were late-in-life miracle babies for their parents, and they are reminded of this every day. By their mother, who wields this information like a weapon of heavy expectations, by their father, who settled down after years of womanizing but has lost all his spark and is emotionally unavailable and moves like a ghost through their home. They are even reminded of this by the neighborhood, who believed that Altagracia, their mother, was infertile. Xiomara and Twin also have a pious best friend, Caridad, who they grew up with, and she remains a steadfast support in spite of going to a different school. Xiomara's body has always drawn unwanted attention from men and women since she got her period at 11, an event that resulted in terror because she had no education about puberty and violence from her mother. Her mother is fiercely religious, and she tries to mold Xiomara into a dutiful daughter devoted to church, while Xiomara wrestles with questions about her faith, identity, and independence. Xiomara is quiet at school and at home, but is unafraid to unleash her fists and her tongue when boys and men put hands on her or make comments about her body. She's also unafraid to fight on behalf of Twin, who is the nerdy genius of the family and is closeted throughout half of the book. Her one refuge is writing. In the privacy of a leather-bound notebook that Twin gave her, Xiomara pours out her feelings in poetry, capturing her frustrations, her doubts, and her hopes. When she's invited to join her school's slam poetry club by Miss Galliano, she discovers the power of speaking her own words aloud, of claiming space and voice in a world that tries to diminish her. The novel traces her journey as she navigates first love with Aman, clashes with her mother and the growing realization that poetry is more than a secret passion, it's a lifeline. Xiomara quietly engages in progressive rebellion, challenging the priest in confirmation classes, refusing to take communion at Mass, and sneaking out of school with Amon to spend time together. The inflection point is Xiomara's mother's discovery and subsequent burning of her notebook. Xiomara flees and runs to Amon's house, devastated at the loss of her voice. Father Sean serves as a mediator, and gradually the relationship reaches a detente, if not some level of closeness, after her whole family attends a poetry slam Xiomara enters. Through verse, Xiomara learns that her voice is not something to be hidden, but something core to her existence that resonates with other people.
All right, y'all, so I'm going to give y'all a little bit of an author bio. Elizabeth Acevedo was born in 1988 in New York City to parents who immigrated from the Dominican Republic. She grew up in Harlem, raised in a Catholic household where storytelling, music, and oral tradition, especially from her family and community, were strong influences. In high school, she participated in poetry and performance, and those early experiences shaped her love for spoken word and making audience connections. After high school, Elizabeth attended the George Washington University, graduating with a BA in Performing Arts in 2010. At GW, because there wasn't a dedicated creative writing major that matched what she wanted to do, she crafted her own interdisciplinary major, combining theater, English, sociology, and production. She also founded a student poetry club and became very involved on campus, working to build communities around art. She earned her MFA in creative writing from the University of Maryland College Park, completing it in 2015. Go Terps! During her MFA, she sharpened her craft and learned to balance her performance poetry background with literary craft and prose verse work. Following graduate school, she spent time teaching, most notably working in Prince George's County, Maryland, go PG, and also as part of Teach for America in 2010, working with middle school students. Her experience as a teacher influenced her perspective on literature, especially the importance of representation and giving young folks voices they recognize. By 2016, she had published her poetry chapbook, Beast Girl and Other Origin Myths. In 2018 came her breakout verse novel, The Poet X, which earned multiple awards. She followed with the Fire on High in 2019 and Clap When You Land in 2020. She has been both a Canto Mundo and Cave Canem Fellow and has received numerous awards and recognitions for her work. She resides in Washington, D.C. with her husband and daughter. Elizabeth Acevedo continues to work with and encourage young writers, saying, "Write the stories you've always wanted to read. Allow yourself to be the main character of your narrative. Become both the window and the mirror for those who read your work. Lean into fear. Write the hard poem." Okay. Oh, so before we get into the discussion, something I briefly mentioned before we started is that so when I first started working for the library system in 2019, my supervisor wanted me to go to the Books for the Beast conference in Baltimore, and Elizabeth Acevedo was the keynote speaker there. And so by that time, I'd already read The Poet X, and so I got her to sign my book. And so when she was giving her keynote, so this book that we have here, her book is, when you read the dedication, it says it's dedicated to Catherine Bolaños and my former students at Buck Lodge Middle School 2010 to 2012. And she was explaining that, and I was like, wow, I realized that I have met her before. My little cousin went to Buck Lodge Middle School and her teacher there. And so when she graduated, I went to her promotion and I took a picture of them. So I have a picture of her from
That's
2010.
So cool.
So I looked back and I was like, oh my goodness. And it's so funny because my cousin still sees her every so often and does her hair and stuff like that. She dedicated this book to her class because when she was in middle school and her class, they read Heaven by Angela Johnson, which is a book that we've covered on the podcast. They read that book and they wrote a letter to, I think she and her class wrote a letter to Angela Johnson and was like, oh, we're going to get another book about this character. I believe there was a character in the book who was a teenage dad. And so she did eventually give that character a book, I think.
Right. It's her dad. It's the main character's dad.
It's the main character's dad? Is it? Okay.
So then it's kind of almost like a prequel, right? It goes back and looks at his experience in life when he was young.
Okay. See, I haven't read it, so I wasn't sure. Okay.
I know I read that.
Okay, yes. And so in the dedication to that book is for Elizabeth Acevedo and the rest of the students in the 1999-2000 sixth grade class at Manhattan School for the Children. So I thought that was a really funny way, how it was all connected, especially considering we read that book before and I had met her, and she taught, even in the author bio, we talk about how she taught in Prince George's County. So that was really cool. Just wanted to share that. And she's always been really nice. Okay.
I think probably the strongest theme in this book is Xiomara's relationship with her mother And we've seen that across many books too. So I thought it'd be really interesting to kind of just dive kind of into it. And like, how do you guys feel about how she depicts the relationship between Xiomara and her mother?
I think it's very realistic.
Mhm.
I mean, I luckily had a much less,
Devout?
that I had a much less intense mom
Okay.
than Xiomara does. But I certainly knew people who had parents like that. And I knew girls who had like very different standards for them than their brothers had from the same parents. And I still see kids like that in the library too. Like that is
Mhm.
not an uncommon dynamic, I think, between mothers and daughters. I mean, it's hard to read at times because we're very much in Xiomara's head and in her feelings about things. And so you get angry sometimes at her mom. It's like, why are you doing this to her? Why are you grabbing her by the hair and forcing her to kneel on rice for like such a non-thing? She's doing something that any normal teenager does. She's having feelings for somebody who, by all descriptions in the book, is a really great first boyfriend for a person to have.
Yeah.
And that's like such a like developmental milestone that's totally normal and happening at the right age for her. And she's not getting any support from her mom. Instead, she's just getting berated and smacked down. So I found it very realistic. I mean, Xiomara is a very emotionally connected and mature narrator in a lot of ways. At one point, she talks about how she thinks her mom is trying to kind of force her into the life that her mom wanted but didn't get, which I think usually when we see books, we think about that as like the parent had to struggle with working and didn't get to go to school or something like that. And they want their child to go to college or they want their child to succeed or have a more prestigious job than they have or something. I'm not sure I've ever read another book where the parent wants the child to be a nun because that was what they felt like they were robbed of. That's a really interesting character development, I think. And I think it is really believable, but also helpful to the reader for Xiomara to see that about her mom and to like understand that. And obviously she's experiencing the repercussions of that and it's terrible. It's not good and it's very damaging to their relationship. But she really sees her mom. I think that's a little bit unique too, because often we have sort of the clash between a parent and a child, and the child doesn't really understand why their parent's acting like that. And we're getting the child's side of the story. So maybe as adults, we might understand why the parent would act like that, or we just don't understand it either because we don't get context for it. But this one, you do get the context and you have the child who's like really keyed into that context. So I think that that's a really nuanced depiction that sometimes you don't get in books that are YA books.
Yeah, I agree with you because I was going to say that it was really difficult for me to understand the mom, but that it was Xiomara that had to walk me through it because otherwise I don't understand being that devout or being that religious and like feeling like becoming a nun was robbed of you. Like I can't like even access that because I feel like in pop culture or like in books, maybe you see someone like forced into being a nun, but I don't think forced to be devout or religious, but I've never seen it the other way around where it's like they wanted to serve God and just couldn't,
When you can see the appeal of that to her mom too, because her mom did get a pretty crappy hand dealt to her for a while. Like she was forced to marry somebody she didn't want to marry who was older than her, rumored to be infertile because I think Xiomara said like, yeah, my dad didn't get anyone pregnant when he was womanizing. So he kind of used that as an excuse to like just be with all of the women on earth because there were no consequences to it. And he continued that after he married her mom. So she's working a grueling job as a custodian or she's a cleaning person of some type at a building that's over an hour from her home. So, she's working very hard. There's a lot of imagery about her mom's hands, like being calloused and rough. And you can see why the safety of a convent and the safety of a I hope this isn't like offensive to anyone, but a man who loves you unconditionally. Maybe that's a weird framing of Jesus or God or something, but she's missing that.
Yeah.
And so you can see what the draw was for her and how somehow in her head that would be protecting her daughter. You know, it's keeping her away from all of the bad things that men do to you.
Yeah.
And putting you with the one man you can trust, right? To take care of you and that you would have, you know, nuns don't have like a luxurious life, but you can understand it. Again, like I feel like this is a rare book and that you really get so much context. And I think we've read a couple of others that also do that really well. Gabby, A Girl in Pieces.
Yes. Yeah.
I think also was very, well, not exactly like sympathetic to the parents. It was very understanding of how they got to the people that we see them as in the book. And then A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. I think there's a lot of nuance to Katie's character and her relationship with Johnny, the sort of trap of the woman having to carry the weight for the household. And I think that's a really important thing that she's doing in that book. And I think it could be very helpful to a teen who is struggling in their relationship with their parent to maybe look at the context of how they got there more and understand that maybe it's not about them so much as it is about the baggage that their parent is carrying. And I would think that that could be somewhat freeing, even if you're in kind of an abusive relationship with your parent. I mean, her mom is abusive. I don't think that there's any like two ways about that. Like she is hitting her frequently in the book. She's forcing her to kneel on the rice to repent, but she's never turned into a monster in this book. Like there is still that element of humanity that her daughter sees in her and that we as the readers see because of Xiomara painting her that way.
Yeah. And I think what I like about this book is that it doesn't go from like her mom's this abusive person and you can't stand her mom too, and happily ever after and all was good in the world and this is how it, you know, like they show up to her poetry slam at the end and, you know, as Xiomara makes a decision to, you know, call in Father Sean and be like, hey, we need some guidance, and that happens, and we leave the book knowing that it's a work in progress, which I think is good and important for, you know, a teen reader who may be having a difficult relationship with their parent, you know, to know that that could be an option. Though if they decided that that wasn't something they wanted to take on, that would be understandable too. So,
yeah, it did remind me of Gabby. It also reminded me of a book that I feel like maybe we should maybe cover at some point, but I'm Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter.
Yes, I agree. And Maria wanted to cover that one too. So I think
what's
we
crazy is I don't know why I
should.
thought we did that. I guess you know what? I had to read it. It was one of the books I read for the Books for the Beast conference, so I assumed that we read it. But no, I read.
No,
that
we
on my
should
own.
definitely do that one sometime.
Yeah, but it's these like really intense mother-daughter relationships, and they're kind of tackled a little bit differently, but they resonate in the same way. So that's what immediately I thought of. I was like, oh, this is going to go in that way. But then kind of like Heather was already saying, I think it still kind of humanized the mother in a different way than I think we saw in those books, just because Xiomara is very tapped in. I like how intentional she is with everything that she includes in this book, because almost as soon as I knew that they were fighting, and then, you know, she said like there's only one person that could bridge us, I was like, oh, it has to be Father Sean. Like it has to be, like she's, you know, the mom's not going to listen to anyone else. And then, yeah, that's who shows up. And then she did a really good job of humanizing him earlier too, because when Xiomara first is talking about him, you know, he's just a priest. He gets a little annoyed about some of the questions that she asks during confirmation class, but then she gets to know him a little bit more. And so then there is that sort of connection that he wasn't always a priest. He was once a boxer, and she always felt like she's had to fight. Like it just was really intentional. And I really liked that nothing felt like it came out of nowhere. So yeah, I really appreciated that. And even like the names of everyone is like really intentional. Like Xiomara, which she actively tells us what Xiomara means, which was it like soldier?
Ready for war.
Ready for war, yeah. And then even just the mom being like Alta Gracia.
Yeah.
Which is what, like high
High grace, basically.
yeah. And then Caridad, being like benevolent. Yeah. So it's just really nice. I am curious about Xavier's name. I don't know if I'm reading too into this. I wish we could ask her, but she did mention like X-Men in it. And I want to say Professor X is considered like, is he not like canonically gay?
Xavier, right? And he is gay.
I thought so, but I don't know if in every reading he is. So there is that with comic books. But I was like, I wonder if it's that. Because I tried looking up his...
into comics, and then that folds in when she gives him the comic with a gay character as a gift. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think another really strong topic in this book is the sexual harassment and objectification, because she sees it like everywhere, and it's really relentless. And
comes
the way
out
that
swinging in the book.
Yeah, and the way that she brings it up is very like it resonates, right? Because I feel like everyone's dealt with it.
Yep.
Maybe even to that extent. I mean, no, for me, I was like, I don't think it was like quite as intense as hers, but I was like, yeah, like I think she bridges like, or she talks about like even like the smallest of comments and just like, and then to the most like overtly sexual comments that like literal strangers will like hurl at you. And I was like, yeah, I wonder if this is one of those things where like, I think any woman, like I don't think you have to be of Xiomara's background would like really understand what she means by it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think this is one of the best depictions of what it is like to move through the world as a teen girl that I've ever read. Because I think this gets left out a lot. Like we sometimes get like a problem novel like Speak, where you're looking at sort of a more extreme on that. But I think that, I mean, I don't know how many men read this book or teen boys, but hopefully some. I think that it is often, men don't see this because they're not the ones getting the comment, and men are much less likely, and boys too, to make the comment if the girl is with a guy that they're viewing like she's his property, basically, right? Like, I don't want to step on the dude's toes, but if he's not there, fair game, like that she has no feelings of her own and just exists as meat, basically. You know, there's so many men that I think will say, well, I just don't see this happening. Like, I don't see the catcalling. I don't see the street harassment. I don't see... Yeah, because you're not a woman. It's not happening at you.
Yeah.
Right.
And you, in some ways, are a shield to the girl next to you when she's with you.
Right.
And so this is, I think, a really great depiction of what it's actually like. Because like you're saying, Darlene, I mean, hers started when she was 11, which is early. And like, I think my eldest daughter had the same experience. And if you develop a little bit earlier, you start getting treated like a woman when you're very much a child. You're not even a teenager. But I think by the time most girls get to high school, this is it. Like, this is your life. Like, that is, you know, and it's not just boys at school in the hallway. It is grown men who are old enough to be your dad, your grandfather, hollering at you out of the car, coming up in your space at the mall. It is constant and relentless, and it is everywhere. And I think that it's really important that she put that in the book, because if, I swear, the next time some guy is like, was it really that much?
Yes.
I'm just going to be like, read the dang book, because this will resonate for any girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people like assume that as words, it doesn't really mean much, right? Because like you said, there is something like Speak where it's like a physical assault on someone, and that should carry more weight. And that's not to like diminish that aspect of it, but I like that she gives some like the weight it deserves to like sexual harassment and just the power that these words have on someone and how they make someone feel. Because, yeah, it is really weird, especially with how young it starts. You internalize it and you like think about it a lot, because I feel like one of the first times that it happened where it was like really, it was like overt. And I think about like, I go back and think about it a lot, is like, I want to say I was like with my friend. We like went walking to go get bubble tea, and then we were like walking back to her house. And some guy was like, he said something like, we can edit this out because I don't think it's safe for a podcast. But he was just like, oh, I can, you can put your mouth somewhere else or something like that, right? Because I was like sucking on a straw. And I was like, And I want to say I was like 12 or 13. And those kind of things, it's like, yeah, those are just words, right? But it's how it makes you feel in that moment, like really powerless. And I feel like she captured that really well.
And she talks about the physical response to that too, because it's not just words. Because often as a girl, especially a young girl, the person that is saying that at you is larger than you. They have all the power in that moment physically. And she says something, I can't remember which of the poems it is, but she talks about why it always makes her hands shake afterwards. And it's that like, I don't know, adrenaline dump of fight or flight, because you are physically being, someone's in your space, someone is threatening you. I mean, that I'm betting all of us have had guys threaten something.
Yeah.
It's not just like, hey, you're hot. It's, I'm gonna this to you.
Right. Or if they don't get the response that they want out of you.
They get mad.
It's like, and that's why I don't get when people are just like, oh, just don't do certain things or don't wear certain things. And I'm like, none of that matters, because if you say something, it's a problem. If you don't say something, it's a problem. You was an ugly bitch anyway. I didn't want you anyway.
Yeah.
And it's like, and especially when it's like people in cars and you're just walking, and it's just like, I remember this happened to me. I think I was like 10 or something, right? So like I started my period when I was like 9.5. So like by the time I was like 10, 11, to me, I'm just like, I believe that I still look like a child. And I feel like those people who are doing those things, most of the time, they know better. They know you're a kid and they don't care. And I'm just like, the fact that you're old enough to be behind the wheel of a car means that you're way too old to be talking to me. You shouldn't be talking to anybody like that anyways.
Yeah. And it disrupts your like child world, right? Like, because
does.
I'm like there hanging out with my friends or, and you hear that and then it's like, it's just gross. And it's like, I don't know you. You're such an old man. But like, yeah, like it kind of like shocks you into like, well, this like, like really you should be able to like preserve your childhood and like your childhood memories. But it like snaps you out of it. Like, no, this is what the greater world at large is. But yeah, I really appreciated that like she included that kind of language. And yeah, like you said, Heather, like, and how it made her feel. Because yeah, I hope people understand that it's not just words.
Especially the fact that like we're still remembering and thinking about that. Like that is like one of the most vivid memories I have as like a child. And like that's crazy.
Right, because you're 10.
Yeah, like...
Yeah, and I also think that it is really interesting that she chose. So Aman is presented as like, he's a soft place to land, right? Like he really cares about her. He really finds her so interesting. He wants to know about the things that she's excited about and the things that make her tick. He never pressures her. He's great, except when a dude puts hands on her in the hall, he does nothing. And in that moment, and he says later, I know you're strong enough to fight for yourself, but I also should stand up for you. In that moment, she thought she had someone else to fight the fight for her for a change. She thought, he sees me with everything else. Surely he sees what's happening in this moment, and he did nothing. And I think that is also... There's a lot of good guys out there. Yes, absolutely. But ask a man how often he's intervened when he has witnessed something like that. How often have you just not noticed the girl that's looking kind of panicked because a guy's following her and talking at her? You get to exist in a bubble when you're a man related to this. Like, I don't want to diminish what men experience as boys growing up in this world either, because there's a lot of stressors and it's hard too. But on this particular issue, even the good guys have blinders on a lot of the time. And I love that she put that in the book. And we walk away from it. I don't know that we are supposed to feel like the right thing would be for Aman to go up and deck the guy, if that's like not in him to do. But it certainly wasn't the right thing to do nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
And she's like, I've talked to him about how this makes me feel. And I think that's part of why she was even so much more disappointed, especially because she's always standing up for her twin. And she knows that her twin is like that in a way where like he probably wouldn't have stood up for her either. And I feel for her, you know? I really do.
And that comes after she like goes to her twins like
To
school
go fight.
to go fight. Yeah, because he came home with a black eye, and then she just automatically resolved in her mind. She's just like, yeah, I'm gonna go beat whoever.
somebody else up again.
Yeah, like she had no idea like who it was, what the context was. She just got
How
on a
large
train.
they were.
Right.
Yeah,
She's just ready to
Waited an hour because the school got out later. Like,
yeah, which was I thought was hilarious. But all of that, like I said, she's really intentional, and so she shows that Xiomara is like ready to fight for people in her life. And yeah, like you guys said, she wanted that from Amon, and he didn't give that to her. And you know, not advocating for violence for sure, but like you said, Heather, maybe not doing nothing. Wasn't really the right call either.
And that wasn't an incident where somebody just made a comment to her either, which, like you said, that's bad. Like the comments hurt a lot and they make you just as uncomfortable. But this was someone putting hands on her, like full on groping her in the hallway and nothing, you know? And like you want to trust somebody, and she does trust him. But part of that trust is that like, you will see me when I'm at my lowest. And like, this is a moment where she feels bad and scared. And she's told him like, I'm tired of fighting.
And does this all happen? This happens after the thing on the train where her mom sees her with him, right? So I feel, right? Am I tripping?
I think so.
Yes.
Because my thought was like...
because then they're split for a while before.
Yes. So was that like a reaction to people like basically like seeing them on the train, or is it just a coincidence that happened after that?
I think it's just happening so much to her at school. Like it's so much a part of her daily life.
Yeah.
That it was just coincidentally the first time it happened where he was in the hall and witnessed it, you know?
But like even still, like, come on, like, but
yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of that, I think that helps us dive into the next topic, which is the virgin whore dichotomy, because her mom made such a big stink about it. And I guess she was, I'm not sure how it came to be or if other people saw her kissing him on the subway too. But it seems that she comes in and all of a sudden people are looking at her and just thinking that she's, like a slut, or I'm not sure. But you already feel like people are already thinking of her in a specific way. She talks a lot about like people already assume that you're like easy or fast because of how your body, because of how your body presents. But then once they just, I guess, see you, honestly, like all she was doing was kissing him on the subway.
It was so tame.
Right.
Yeah, it was so tame. But like then it like confirms that for them, and so they like kind of ostracize her for it, or the guys feeling like they can be even more
extreme,
physical.
And see, that's
her.
what I was thinking. Yeah,
and then the girls, because I want to say when there's a character later that we meet, her name is Isabel, and then she says like, "Oh, I heard you're the like easy girl" or something like that.
She's like, "You're the something bodied freshman" or something like that, and she's like, "Actually, I'm a sophomore."
Yeah, but which is like wild, right? That would be her reputation. When again, like Xiomara has told us many times, she's never been with anyone else.
Wasn't that like her first kiss or something? One of her first kisses or something like that.
It was like very early. I think she kissed him like once before,
right? Or I think they'd met up a few times and kissed. But that was so. Yeah, it was just. It's really interesting that it's like you are either like caridad in this novel, like you're like really pious and like really good girl presenting, or you're like immediately you're Xiomara, who I think we know internally is a lot more complex than that. But like to her peers, she seems to be an easy girl.
And it's crazy that Isabel, that was like one of the first things she would say to her. Like, that's crazy. You meet somebody and that's the first thing you say to them.
Yeah.
Wild.
And if she would have decked you, it would have been a problem.
But just keeping it real like the whole time. And even Xiomara says that like, I ought to be mad about that, but like I'm glad someone's just being straight with me for a change.
But
and
interesting,
not saying it behind my back.
But interesting that that's her reputation, and like, and we know Xiomara because we've gotten to read about her in her monologues too. But that's so weird that would be her reputation for like just really tame things.
Well, and like also she's like the quiet girl. She sits at the table with other girls who don't like interact with people and they just read books at lunch. And there's nothing she's doing at school to give off like any sort of impression that she's even into boys at all, honestly. Like she's, you know, she's pretty shy seeming and they make that assumption. But like even Caridad goes to the all girls like Catholic school. And she says at one point, like, oh, like none of this would have happened if you had just like come to this school. And then Xiomara's like, yeah, like half the girls in your class get pregnant before graduation, but I think I think that's a really beautiful like way to sort of spotlight how ridiculous this whole idea is that people have. So like, oh, the good girls at the Catholic school, but they're also, you know, just as susceptible to teen pregnancy as the girls at the hood school, like Xiomara says she goes to. You know, why does this even exist at all? Like,
but she does do a really good job of kind of showing how the extremism of like the parents and the adults in their lives really kind of push them to A, seeing the world this way too, and then B, like kind of falling into that where it's kind of like, oh man, like I have to either wait for marriage or I give into all of this like sexual tension, and lust, and then end up getting pregnant because I've never actually been taught like sex ed. So I feel like we get a lot of how Xiomara's mom kind of felt that way. I want to say celibacy is part of being a nun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was either like she was going to be celibate or like, yes, she was going to be a wife, but more importantly than being a wife, she really wanted to be a mother. And so that's why they are such a like gift, quote unquote, to her.
They were the
miracles.
The miracles, yes, exactly.
And even like the dad, like he kind of falls into that extremism because it was like he was someone that slept around and really liked dancing. And then all of a sudden, the miracle babies came and he like switched his life around or turned his life around. And now he just doesn't dance and doesn't like talk about dancing. And so I do like that it kind of comes full circle where at the end, when they are sort of mending their relationship as a family, he teaches Xiomara how to dance. Yeah, like kind of removing that stigma of something that really is not anything bad.
Well, and I think as someone who was born and raised Catholic and went all through Catholic school, I think that she does a really good job of deconstructing how Catholicism gets people to that point in a lot of ways. I mean, she talks about the Dominican Republic flavor of Catholicism, like her mom's hands are like scarred, like her knuckles are from being hit with a ruler so many times to reinforce faith, and that like, you know, the nuns were extremely punitive, and that was how they got things to stick and how they got people to stay on the right path.
Right.
But one thing that I thought was really, really well done is that she really questions, where is my place in this faith? I look around and the only thing for me in my faith is a teenager who was like knocked up while unwed, but hadn't even had sex. So it was like no making of her own. Like it was a teenager with zero agency. And the whole like reason she's important was her role as a vessel. And, you know, that's maybe one of the most like concise frameworks for looking at why this virgin whore dichotomy exists. Like to the degree that like you've eliminated any sexuality from the mother of God, you know, like, like that is,
but also that it
impressive.
Started so young. Like it was like her paths were she's a virgin mother, or she would have been a whore. I was gonna say, when you were talking about like ways in which like Catholicism kind of draws you in, I thought it was really interesting that she had that talk with Father Sean, and I want to say it was the first conversation with him. And he says, like, you're so lucky you're part of a very, like, forgiving faith or something. I don't know how he phrased it, but I just rolled my eyes because I also grew up Catholic. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're big into guilt. Though, theoretically, you just go to confession and it's clean slate.
Yeah. Like, you just have to tell us what you've done.
Yep. and be truly remorseful for it. Because
Right.
that was the other piece where it was like, Father Sean is very clear that Xiomara is not remorseful about these things. And he's like, why are you in confession then? Like, your mom made you come here. And he's like, Alta Gracia, I don't know that confirmation class is really, maybe this year ain't the year,
Well, and when that happens, at least it kind of gives her a way to kind of slide into some of the poetry club.
Yeah.
So that's, and at first, like, her teacher is telling her about poetry club, and she's like, oh, I can't go because it's at the same time as my communion classes. But then she's also kind of like, I know I write my poetry in my notebook that my twin brother gave me, but I don't really know if speaking in front of people is for me. And I love that we get to see her find her voice as the book goes on.
But also she was kind of rude because like it was like, Xiomara, why don't you just tell the teacher I have a conflict with my confirmation class? She never does. So like the impression is just like, I don't want to go to your club.
But shout out to that teacher,
Miss Galliano.
for still insisting like any chance she got. She's like, no, you should really be in this club. I do like also the connection between, I guess, what Xiomara's into, which is poetry, and her mom, and like the duality of like verses, right? And like her mom wanting her, like wishing she would memorize like Bible verses, but her like memorizing her own poetry verses, And then
she does memorize some of the Bible verses because she does write that one essay about one of the Psalms for school as, I think, like being a really impactful quote or something.
One of her favorite quote. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like how when she's writing these assignments, we see like what she wants to write versus what she actually writes.
Yeah. And what I wrote for me, what I wrote for the teacher.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that the last one is the first and final draft. And that what she wrote is what she turns in.
But I also will say, like, as a former teacher, I would be so thrilled. Obviously, I would like my students to be comfortable enough to submit what they're truly writing. I would be so thrilled if I was giving assignments that were impactful enough that the student wrote their own take for themselves and then turned something else in. I was like, Miss Galliano was really a great teacher.
Yes.
I feel like low-key Miss Galliano was like what Miss Acevedo was like as a teacher, because she also says that like she's not that much older than her students and stuff like that. This is just me reaching across. But
speaking of like all the conversations that we've had about teachers in the books and whether they get like a good or bad rep, I think she's a really good example of someone that has a good rep, and just the fact that she even gave her personal cell phone number to call because she knew that she was going through something.
But I understood it.
Yeah. Well, like that I meant, not probably what she should be doing, but to show that she really does care to that extent.
And it was like a crisis situation. I mean, she has a kid that is saying basically, I ran away from home.
I'm screaming, I hate my mom.
I truly do not know what I'm going to do after school right now. Like, this is, I don't know where to go. And obviously, like, you can't move in with your unsupervised boyfriend.
Yeah. Which I don't know if it's because I was listening to it, but I missed that that's where she was meeting him up. I thought like they were meeting at a third spot, not like at his place.
I think they went from the third spot to his place.
Yeah, I think they met at a location, like,
because he rushed to get dressed, and he didn't even have on socks, and he was cold.
Like, I was guessing they met at like a subway stop or something where it was like, okay, this is a point where we can both go that we're not around people that would interfere. But then his dad like worked the graveyard shift, I guess. So his dad was gone like a really long time.
That's what I'm saying.
He's like working like an 18-hour graveyard shift. But
yeah, that's why I was like, wait, where's his dad?
He
I'm
just
so
never
confused.
came home.
Yeah,
because because it seems like they probably met at what you would think might be before his shift would have started, but like they didn't mention that he was there.
Yeah.
They chilled a little bit and they went to sleep and woke up and went to school. I'm like, wouldn't he have been back by the time they was getting ready for school? But I'm thinking too deep into that part.
It's fine. It was a plot device. It's okay.
So did her mama see her on the train and she just didn't see her mama seeing her on the train? Or did somebody tell?
No, I think she said she saw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because she said
didn't she say like I had to get off the train because of what I was seeing or something? I forgot. I think we've definitely talked a lot about Xiomara's relationship with her mother, but her relationship with like the different men in the book is really interesting as well. I feel like it's more like lightly touched on like with Father Sean and like her dad as well. But I think her relationship with her brother, or like her twin, who she calls twin, I think it's also a really interesting way of like getting to know Xiomara, because she does like protect him a lot. But we find out that twin is gay and that he didn't feel comfortable enough sharing that to Xiomara. She kind of just
Knew.
And she says like there's a part of her that's always known. And I thought that was actually really interesting too, because I think she is such a self-reflective character that she remembers like that there may be times that she could have asked about it, or maybe even shown her support and she didn't. And yeah, but is there anything that we wanted to touch on with her relationship with her twin? Because I feel like there's a lot there, because they are a little maybe too codependent, but I like that this book is kind of distinguishing like kind of where they're veering off in different paths in life, just that they have their own paths to kind of go on.
As a twin, I love that they like you said that they mentioned in the book, like, yeah, they are kind of a little codependent, but they're also like not as close as maybe people always assume that twins are. So I thought that was really interesting for them to mention in there, especially like, you know, when it gets to the point, like when they're both texting their prospective like partners and she's like, they're basically over there like, who over there got you smiling like that? And they're just like, look, let's just not talk about it because we know we're not really supposed to be talking to nobody. And I think that was like one of the first times where in her mind where we see her acknowledge the fact that he might not be talking to a girl. And so I thought that was really interesting.
Even though things start to get sort of on a more positive path with her parents at the end.
Do we assume that she wins the poetry slam?
I don't know that it matters.
Okay.
Like,
Yes. Okay.
I don't think we know, and I think you can make your own judgment about that, but I don't think it matters because it was more just
her using her voice, her speaking out.
And her being seen by the other people in her life finally, or seen for who she is. Not to say that they didn't see her before or like know anything about her, but like seeing something that was like really core to her and not front, you know? I finished the book and I was like, I don't know that this could go this well for twin.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I felt
have
too.
real concerns. That's a different line for, I think, his parents probably. And she says that at one point too, like, you know, as upset as they would be with me for talking to boys, I don't want to think about how bad it would be if they found out that twin was gay. I feel like that's a really different like level of things too, because everyone's sexuality is part of their identity in some sense. But like for Xiomara, it's not, you know, she's kind of growing into it and she's exploring what that means to her. And she has like strong feelings for Amon and she's having first love. But, you know, if she's listing the things about herself, she would say, I'm a poet, I'm a fighter, I'm a twin, I'm a, you know, a girlfriend, whatever. But I would think I'm gay is higher up the list for twin, like especially at this time in his life, and that he can't let his family know about that.
And it seems like he might have possibly been more open about it at school. Possibly?
It sounds like he was out at school. But you know,
that's a different experience.
She comments on like his boyfriend's family being like open about their son being gay, being like, wow, that's like a real, I can't even get my mind around that because that's so impossible in my household.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think they can come around on her having a little boyfriend and dating because Father Sean is telling him like that's a normal progression of things for her. I don't know that there would be the same level of support for the family in working through twin being gay, which is really heartbreaking to think about. Like,
and I also wonder because he also seems like he has a better relationship with the church than she does. And I wonder what that is like for him, which we, of course, don't get really too much of that because we are in Xiomara's head, not his. But
Well, and that's probably a struggle for him too.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly under the previous Pope, the Catholic Church got a lot less rigid, but it is still, much like women are, it is still like a lesser category of person in a lot of ways. Like you are still, yes, we're supposed to love you, but also you're not supposed to do that. There's a real difference in your faith being tied up in fundamentally your existence is sinful if you act on who you are.
Mm-hmm.
That would be really hard. You know, she's already estranged from the faith in a lot of ways. Like she just doesn't believe it anymore. But like you're saying, how we're led to believe that he does.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I just worry for Twin. I feel like he's navigating so many hard things and I want a book about him.
Because she even makes the commentary of like, for him to be somebody who's so smart and have so much belief in like science or something, like she's surprised that he's
does he still hang on to the faith?
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't. You know, maybe she's making that assumption based on how good he was at learning all of the stuff for confirmation class
right.
or you know, as a child in their, you know, CCD.
Well, it
Bible
seems like
study.
he's present in church because she didn't know that Father Sean. Well, this isn't funny, but she didn't know that his mom
Like
died
3 years ago.
Yeah, and then Twin is like, 3 years ago.
But
or
I
three-
mean, I don't know that. Like, I think that was like she said he was gone for weeks. So like she just didn't notice that he was missing for weeks. So I think it was more like just Twin asked like, "Hey, where's Father Sean?"
Yeah,
and then his mom or whoever at church was like, "Oh no, his mom died, so he had to go back to Jamaica." And you know,
right, because he was Jamaican.
yeah.
Which I had forgotten about that because in my mind I'm just picturing like this white guy just showing up to their house. But like,
Yeah. I felt the same way as you. But because this is my first time reading it, I just finished it, and then I was like, oh, as much as I really like Xiomara's journey through the book, I almost wanted there to be like a come to head for Xavier too, where like his mom would find out about him too, and then the resolution at the end is for both of them. But then that wouldn't make sense because it's not realistic. Yeah. It's too much.
It would have been too much a happy ending bow on the thing. I like that she leaves it where it's like things are better between them, but it's a work in progress. One of you called it that. I think that's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But you've still got other shoe to drop, which is Twin. And it's like, how are they going to navigate that? And like, I guess my hope is they're in a more open space where there's at least some dialogue and the family is actually communicating for a change. But oh boy, I still am not optimistic about poor Twin coming out of the closet and that not going real bad.
And you know that they're just like they were talking when there's one part where she talks about how like they're just got to make it until they graduate and so they can go off to college. Mm-hmm. And then she talks about how she's envious of her brother because since he skipped the grade, he's actually going to be able to escape a year earlier than her. Mm-hmm. And then I think there's something that happens later on where the mom is like, "Oh, this is why you want to go off to college so you can go and be a whore." And I'm just like, "What?"
Yeah. She can go to college and she can live a life and get married and her family would be happy that she's getting married. Like even her mom would probably be thrilled, like, because that's a correct thing to do. Twin has no correct options in his mom's framework and probably his dad too, because I think we're meant to think that the dad, there's a lot of like machismo, which he might be the bigger danger to Twin even than the mom. Like the mom is going to be heartbroken and sobbing. I don't know that she would be as violent with him as she was with Xiomara. I think she would just be so like upset and might, you know, want to like cut him off or something. Mm-hmm. But his dad might be violent. You know, it just shifts where the nexus of violence is, I guess.
Yeah, because I think it was like his dad doesn't like when he cries. Was it that? Okay.
Thinks he's too soft.
Yeah.
I had just looked at it earlier and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to find it. But it's basically when they go skating, there's a line and Aman talks about how like, yeah, he's so good at skating. And she's like, how are you this good? And he's like, yeah, I just used to come here and practice because my dad never wanted to put me in classes. And there's this last couple lines I really liked where she said, and now his smile is a little sad. And I think about all the things we could be if we were never told our bodies were not built for them.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and it was his dad didn't want to put him in classes because he thought that was soft. Like, you can go play basketball, you cannot skate. Yeah, I don't know. All the baggage that parents saddle their kids with. and society. I mean, it's not like the parents are making this up. It's coming from expectations that were put on them as well. And I just think she does such a great job of deconstructing all of the negative things and the sources of them that we get as we're aging.
Her relationship with Amon, I feel like we kind of sprinkled that throughout, but is there anything that someone like wants to talk like further about?
I was just gonna say I like that they rekindle at the end. Like I thought she was just really just gonna like cut him off and just be like, nah, which if she had done that, I would have understood. But I do like that, you know, she's seemingly giving him another chance and they are together.
She thought, well, like she misses him at one point and she's thinking about how they like fractured and she's like, I might have been a little wrong too.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you kind of flew off the handle when you could have maybe talked that out. But yeah. I like that he got her to listen to better music than Drake.
Did I lose you? Did I?
So many Drake references.
I was like, girl. But then he's bringing Kendrick. So
Yes.
I was like, okay, that's better.
And I think it's so funny because I actually had bookmarked a couple of times. And I'm like, granted, this book came out in 2018. So obviously, like, what we know about Drake then, what we know about Drake now, like,
Yeah,
nobody,
that's true.
there's no way she would have made this many Drake references in a book that came out in 2025. But he's like, yeah, so how did you feel about the Kendrick? She was like, it was cool.
Yeah. It's no Drake.
And then the whole like essay about Nicki Minaj. Which I actually like, if you take away the fact that Nicki Minaj is kind of who she is today, it was actually a pretty decent essay.
I'm a human being.
Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, sorry. I had so many thoughts about this because I was like, should I even bring it up? Because I feel like we're talking so positively about every aspect of this book and like all the like important themes. And I was like, this feels so small. I feel like Nicki Minaj is not like very happy in her body, right? Because she did get plastic surgery.
I never found you funny. I never found you entertaining. I never found you smart. I just found you annoying.
That's true.
So she's happy in her body now.
Yeah, which I'm not trying to like make a I'm not trying to make an argument for or against plastic surgery, but I just felt like the essay just didn't delve more deep into it. Like I just felt like it was very surface level because of that. And also I thought just, all of the names that we brought up are really popular artists.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it read a little like someone who listens to like hip hop, but like on the more like shallow end, or not shallow, but like just kind of like what they
reference.
So many Young Money references.
Young Money. Yeah, like kind of like, they're like, I kind of know these artists because they're so popular. Like I'll add them in, but it just didn't feel like authentic to someone that would really like hip hop and rap, right?
Yeah.
Like I just felt like to bring up Nicki Minaj and then not bring up any of the other like female rap artists.
Jealousy, let it go, results could be tragic. Some of y'all...
It seemed like she was kind of in her own category, but then like only lightly touch on Eve earlier.
Yeah.
And then, bringing up like Drake, it just felt like really recency bias, right?
But like I feel like that at the time this book was written, it tracks. Like the majority of my students only were into music like superficially like that. Like they knew the big names and stuff, but they weren't. And like some of them were into hip hop, some of them were into other genres, but there were very few of them that I thought were like well-read, well-listened. I don't know what you say that, like well-rounded in their musical
that makes
taste.
Sense, yeah.
And so
that's
like
true.
Even like her kind of superficial essay about Nicki to me tracks because I think it's a teen girl getting something she needs out of something she listened to that was accessible to her. And like, I don't know how deeply a teenager like would be thinking about like, well, Nicki had some plastic surgery and Nicki found this no
Allegedly.
Good guy. Nicki did this, Nicki did that. Like, and like she brings up like Cardi B and like Love and Hip Hop too. Well, I mean, Cardi's also like kind of reworked herself a lot.
Yeah.
But like clearly they found her like someone to not aspire to, but somebody that
they wanted to dress up as for Halloween.
Yeah,
at least.
exactly. Like that they had some connection to, or that they like enjoyed. And yeah, I mean, I think that's just teens. It's why like so many teen girls think like Taylor Swift is a genius. Like at that age, a lot of times you do feel like it's an adult that's speaking to me because you're not fully formed. And she's not fully formed. I think that's why this is like really understandable. Like she's definitely a still waters run deep kind of girl for a teenager, but she's still getting there. She's just starting to like deconstruct these ideas about Virgin Mary and what is that like? How did that play out in my life? And she's, I think, ahead of the curve of a lot of teenagers, but like in the way that she's doing like early college level kind of deconstructing of stuff. So like, I just think she's not there yet. Like,
yeah, that's a really good point because I was thinking of her as a character written by a millennial woman and not thinking of her as the teen character that she is. And also like, I don't know, because I was thinking like, I'm really surprised that she didn't bring up Tupac. And then I was like, well, if she had, then I would have thought that was very like cliche because I feel like whenever they talk about poetry and rap, I feel like Tupac's name is always brought up. So then I would have thought like, oh, that's so cliche or like that's so done. So,
no, like 2014 was the last year that I was teaching, and my 7th graders, like, you have a kid that was like, yeah, I'm super into rap. And they didn't know anything.
No, that's hilarious.
One thing I forgot to mention was that party at the end of the book for
the Halloween party.
No, the
celebration
one
of the
poetry slam. There's a reference to Twin like giving Steven, the other kid from Poetry Club. So there's Chris, Stephen, and Isabel. We gave a little context for Isabel. Isabel's sort of the like sassy member of the club, and she just tells it like it is. And then Chris is the like really supportive guy. So he's always like, wow, that's super deep, after everything. And then Stephen, I guess, is coded as gay. And then they have the party and Twin's like making eyes at him. And I'm like, no.
Not with your parents.
Oh, yeah.
We just had the train incident. Like, what are you doing?
Oh, interesting. Are they archetypes for Xiomara and her friends then? Because isn't one of them, unless it's Chris too, which then never mind.
Xiomara's the Isabel, and and Chris is the Caridad, and Twin's the gay one, I guess so.
Well, I was going to say, because isn't there one, like someone said like, oh yeah, that's really deep and just was like, that's really good. But then there was another person in the poetry club that was like saying, like breaking it down, like more academically.
To be Steven, because I think Chris was just the hype man that was like, wow, that's great.
Yeah. Okay.
That is unimportant, but I wanted to bring it up as far as context goes.
I totally missed that, so thank you for sharing that. Because it's right here next to me. I see Twin tap his feet and pretend not to look at Steven.
Yep.
Oh, that's cute.
Or terrifying.
Or it's cute when you're reading it separate from like having read the whole book.
Right.
Okay, so now we're gonna do a quiz. So this quiz, it says we are going to answer 10 questions to reveal a poem that describes your personality. And I also just want to point out that the URL says, answer 10 questions and I will sum up your soul. So shout out to, quote, Oscar Wilde, who was a community contributor for this on BuzzFeed. So I'm just going to ask the first question, and then I guess you guys can say, I can ask the question, read the options, and then you guys can let me know what you guys are going to click. Okay, so the first question, who are you? A young rebel dreaming of change and freedom, a fairy sprinkling hope over lost souls, human, a poet staring into the void demanding answers, a starlet blowing kisses to your lovers before dressing for the red carpet, a lost soul trying to grasp onto any semblance of humanity but failing each time.
That's dark.
A student laughing with your friends and cherishing your youth. So.
I'm going to go with human, period.
Oh, I don't know. I think I used to be a young rebel dreaming of change and freedom, but now I'm a poet staring into the void demanding answers.
I'm a lost soul trying to grasp onto any semblance of humanity but failing each time.
I'm getting there fast.
Yeah.
When you said that was dark, I was like, damn, that's me.
No, I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting close.
Okay, so the next one is, who is your muse? The beautiful, starky boy who breaks all the rules and questions the existence of morality. The elusive figure who appears in all your dreams, whom you can't seem to recognize despite suspecting that you know them in real life. The woman you saw on the street the other day getting out of her car to help a blind girl cross the road. That is so specific. One of Oscar Wilde's creations that walk the fine line between morality and sin. The dark, misunderstood creature that lives in your mind, struggling to break out. The chanteuse whose voice steals the heart of everyone who enters the dark, smoke-filled club every Thursday night. The sailor who writes poems about the sea, where that you write poems about him, for you love him as much as he loves the sea.
Oh my God. I kind of love that last one.
I'm going to go with the elusive figure who appears in all your dreams.
Who is your muse?
Yeah, that's the hard thing. I guess I will go with the sailor who writes poems about the sea, unaware that you write poems about him, for you love him as much as he loves the sea.
I mean, I'll go with one of Oscar Wilde's creations that walk the fine line between morality and sin.
Okay. Whose siren song would lead you down that path of destruction?
These are the weirdest
some of them,
combinations of things.
The first one says Harry Styles, Sufjan Stevens, Paul McCartney, or the Libertines. The second one says Hozier, Mumford & Sons, or Block Party.
Why did they put Block Party in that?
Yeah.
What?
I'm more
happening?
concerned about the next one.
Arctic Monkeys, Amy Winehouse, Sam Fender, or 5 SOS. Is that 5 Seconds of Summer?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I don't understand.
I don't understand any of these combinations. They all have at least one that
doesn't
makes
sense.
no sense.
Yeah.
The Moody Blues, the Velvet Underground, the Who, or the Shins. Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley, Nancy Sinatra, or Paul Anka. Ariana Grande, One Direction, Gorillaz, or Cigarettes After Sex. And then we have Zayn, Louis Tomlinson, The Neighborhood, The Lumineers. Down the path of destruction?
Make any sense?
So I'm gonna be honest and go with Ariana Grande, One Direction, Gorillaz, or Cigarettes After Sex, because from that box, I think I know some songs from 3 out of 4 of those artists.
Why is Marilyn Monroe even an option? She wasn't really a musician.
She's saying happy birthday.
Mr. President.
I guess I'll go with the Moody Blues, the Velvet Underground, the Who, and the Shins.
That's what I'm doing too.
Or the Shins,
because
or
I don't dislike any of those bands, but these are just such bizarre combinations.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there wasn't a Drake reference. Xiomara would have been pulled in.
Yeah.
Wow, we probably should cut that out.
All the Drake fans are going to come for you.
Yeah.
Okay, what color palette paints your soul? Color palette paints my soul. I'm going to go with mahogany, cream, white, and gold.
I want to go with orange, but that's a weird combination. I guess I'll still go with the ruby, scarlet, black, and orange. I wanted one that was like sun colors, like orange and yellows, but they're splitting things up in weird ways.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of these are more like weird football uniform combinations.
I guess I'll go, even though I don't know what water lily is either, with coffee, water lily, cream, and wine red.
Which Hogwarts house combo do you truly belong to? It's a lot of combos, but my answer is I don't do Hogwarts houses, and I'm glad that's on there.
I don't do J.K. Rowling, but I definitely cared about the books when I read them, and this gives her no money, so I'm going Ravenclaw and Gryffindor.
I will go Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw.
And I don't think I ever read all the books, so when I say I don't do them, I really don't, because I don't know the differences.
That's fair.
Which of these is a part of your soul? Thunderstorms and dark poetry, rocky beaches and lanterns, vintage radios and hair curlers, a cup of tea and your blankets, wildflowers and the memory of laughter. Wow, that sounds sad. Roses and pearls, blood Blood in the Night Sky.
That's Edward.
It's a preview for our next.
Clearly.
Wildflowers in the Memory of Laughter.
It's so boring, but I'm going to put a cup of tea and your blankets.
Which of these songs is the anthem of your life? Come What May from Moulin Rouge, Wolf Like Me by TV on the Radio, Blue Velvet by Bobby Vinton, Caring is Creepy by The Shins, Home by One Direction, Mystery of Love by Sufjan Stevens, or My Way by Frank Sinatra. I don't really know.
I'm going with Sufjan here. Mystery of Love.
Yeah, that's actually the only one I know.
I don't know any of these songs. I'm just going to close my eyes and pick one. Okay, went with Home by One Direction. I swear I'm not a directioner. Though if you find a picture of me from 2015 that says otherwise, don't judge me. So I'm not a directioner, but when I worked at the movie theater, they had like the cutouts when they were showing like their documentary. And so I took a picture. I was like, guys, look, I met One Direction. Which of these is closest to your ideal love language? A kiss on the hand every time you say goodbye. Poetry hidden among the pages of your favorite book along with one single wildflower, slow dancing outside in a thunderstorm, a surprise picnic in the meadow with wine, berries, and pasta, a single anonymous red rose, running around on empty streets under the stars, calling each other by the name of a flower. Also, Kitty's right there.
I'm so hungry that I read that as running around on empty stomachs. And I was like, it's not that one.
Mine is a kiss on the hand every time you say goodbye.
Slow dancing in a thunderstorm, two of my favorite things.
I'll put a surprise picnic in the meadow with wine,
cute.
berries, and pasta.
An anonymous red rose is scary.
A little bit.
That's like
Yeah,
vaguely threatening, actually.
And like just a single one at that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I got my result.
Oh,
Me too.
interesting. This isn't what I thought. Anyway, go on.
So mine says light academia, starry nights and the prettiest books ever seen, the softest touch of spring winds, charming and serene, wildflowers in your hair and laughter in your voice, spring of eternal youth, a million reasons to rejoice.
I got light academia as well.
Nice.
Oh.
I got the revolution.
Oh.
That tracks.
The
Anger and
complete
rebellion.
opposite.
I mean, I got a 2 on rules when they made me take this test for the leadership training.
Oh.
Not into that. Anger and rebellion and all things that are lost find a home in your soul, but at too great of a cost. A strange madness within you has long unfurled to start a revolution to change the world. That was poetic.
Yeah.
It rhymed and everything.
I was looking at the comments to see what else.
People got.
Yeah, Tender Rouge, I guess, was one.
Weird.
Well, actually, I don't know. Someone put the revolution. Dark Academia was one. I was like, people are not putting
I like
their
this comment.
results.
We need more quizzes like this. I'm tired of finding out what kind of tea I am.
Yeah.
Someone said, I honestly don't care if I'm a chicken nugget or a burger.
So then why are you on those quizzes?
Exactly.
I am
Stop
interested
taking
in
the
what tea.
quiz.
Thunderstorm at 4 a.m. was one.
Oh, nice.
Lone Lighthouse. Okay. Old Hollywood was one. That makes sense. That's probably why the Marilyn Monroe
Yeah.
one was there.
Does this book hold up? I mean, minus all the Young Money Drake references,
Yeah.
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
It's also just not that old. In the
Yeah,
grand scheme of
exactly. I was
things.
about to
Like,
say,
if
yeah.
it was already like super dated,
Yeah.
that would be sad.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, we were talking about, I thought some of the musician references were pretty superficial, but I don't think that that detracts from the overall story.
Oh, for
I think
sure.
that they're just like little things sprinkled in here. And even like they were texting in it too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So like even that, I just feel like, I
Yeah,
don't think that
it's
it,
fine.
I think it still holds up as a whole.
Yes.
Agree.
Would I recommend this book? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. Love Elizabeth Acevedo. If you hear this, girl, yeah, let's link up. No, I'm kidding. She's not going to hear this.
I would recommend this book. Yeah.
I'm
And
actu-
and her other books too.
Agreed.
Mhm.
I think she writes teen characters really well. And it's very, like, she takes a lot of care with them.
And she writes families really well,
Yeah.
too.
Mhm.
And I would recommend this to adults too. Like, I know we try to talk about whether we'd recommend it to someone of the age it's like targeting, but I think this is one of those YA books that could be really impactful for adults as well.
Yes.
Right. Each episode, we ask whether our book passes the Bechdel test. The Bechdel test asks whether a work features two female characters who talk to each other about something that doesn't involve men or boys. So, does it pass? I would say yes.
For sure.
Yes.
And we have nothing to say
Yeah,
about
no,
that.
I think, and one of the first instances that comes to mind is, when she has a conversation with her teacher about what happens with her and her mom. And so, yeah.
Yeah, for a bit I was thinking like, oh, maybe this won't. And this would just be a discussion about how the Bechdel test doesn't always really, it's a good guide, but it doesn't always determine whether a work is feminist or not. Because for a while I thought like, oh, she was just bringing up her boy problems and like liking boys, with caridad and like hiding that from her parents. But yeah, then there was a lot of conversations that are outside of that.
Yeah, I agree. Passes. Join us next time when we'll discuss a book in which the main character falls for a really old dude. If you think you know which book we're tackling next, follow us on Instagram. We're @TheseBooksMadeMe and drop a comment on our next read post.